I've just released a brand new course called the 5-Minute Music Producer. The 5-Minute Music Producer gets you a new music making activity every single day for a whole year. You can join month by month or sign up for the whole year at once. If you've ever struggled with coming up with ideas, writer's block, remembering your ideas when it's time to make music, having inspiration, or just having clear workflows for making music, then this is the course for you. Each day you'll get a new activity that will help you write more music, make better lyrics, develop solid workflows, learn techniques for generating ideas, and giving you a process that you can rely on. Professional music producers can't wait for inspiration to strike when it's time to make music. They have to get to work all the time, so they have routines and workflows that they count on. This course will help you build those routines and workflows that will make sure that your inspiration is always at hand and you can make more music all the time. Each daily activity takes only about 5 minutes to do, so even when you're not feeling like making music, you can still probably commit to a couple minutes. And you'll be surprised how often that those couple minutes turn into a full session because you get inspired. Sometimes you got to get the momentum going before things start happening, and the 5-Minute Music Producer is designed to help you do just that. So if you want to try it out, the first week is totally free. You'll get 7 of these lessons that will help set you up with some cool workflows. And if you like it, stay aboard and enjoy the ride. You can sign up for the 5-Minute Music Producer at brianfunk.com/5minutes. Hello and welcome to the Music Production Podcast, the show about all things making music. I'm your host, Brian Funk. On today's show, I have Kevin Allen, aka Khordmaster. Kevin is a classically trained pianist, live streamer, music producer. He's a math tutor, and he's a YouTube content creator. He even runs his own podcast called Khordmaster Keys. If this conversation sounds like it picks up sort of in the middle, that's because it does. Because Kevin and I were getting to know each other before we started the show, and we lost track of time because we were having such a good conversation. So the show just kind of picks up right in the middle of our conversation at a sensible place. He was a really great guest, lots of fun to talk to him, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with Kevin Allen, aka Khordmaster.
You know what, man? That is, Brian, one of the biggest challenges for me is that very thing. It's like having too many ideas. And I've learned that there's kind of 2 different avenues right now. One of them is KMATs, my mentoring and tutoring business that is wholeheartedly the breadwinner of the 2 different directions that I'm going. That's the thing that's in high demand. Students, need the help. I'm offering a service that I really enjoy, all that stuff. And then the other side is sort of my content creation side, my music side, the stuff that brings me more joy for sure, even though it brings me joy helping students out. And so thinking about okay, this is like a bit of a revelation for me. It's like I put maybe if we had 100% of my total content creation time or social media time, 90% of it goes into Khordmaster because it's fun and it's interesting and I can talk to other people and all that stuff. I don't really do any marketing for KMATs at all until recently. Now I'm starting to realize that why can't I do creative stuff with KMATs and really use that experience that I have and the equipment that I have, like my camera here and other things, to make high quality content and still be creative and stand out above the people who are maybe a little bit more elementary with their content creation from the tutoring perspective. And right. So that's been a really cool sort of revelation for me. I'm kind of really spending a lot of time. One of the exciting things for me right now with KMATs is, if you think for yourself for a second, what is one of the places that you go when you are trying to find a product or service and you're looking for reviews? Certainly Amazon, but also Google. I just answered the question for you because I didn't want you to not be able to answer it to defeat my whole sort of point here. But yes, Google is the place, right? And I wasn't on Google until now. And now I have a presence on Google. When you search for KMATs tutoring, I'm going to come up there. Soon to be, when you start searching for Black-owned tutors or tutors in my area, I'm working on SEO stuff, which is essential, right, for discoverability. So I'm getting that stuff ready to go. I'm I have such a huge, vast circle and extended circle who are rooting for me and who want, who do want to see me do well. And so getting and many of them have actually tutored and worked with their families and friends and stuff. So like getting the very easy step of just having them enter a 5-star review if they think I deserve it. And or writing a review and like bolstering that's been like super fun getting that presence on Google lately.
Yeah, that's cool because you gotta be everywhere these days. You gotta have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But it's nice that you found this connection between what you're doing musically and also like an educational type of thing.
Yeah.
You've been doing like a lot of really cool stuff on Instagram, on YouTube. You've got the podcast, Khordmaster Keys, which is, I think if people are listening to this show, they'd probably enjoy your show because it's this kind of relaxed conversation thing with curious artists, which is a big part of the reason I was happy to talk to you because you have this, you're just trying to get to the bottom of it. You're trying to figure it out just like we all are. And there's a lot of discovery along the way. And I think it's just so cool that you're sharing that with people. And you're on a bunch of platforms. Then I was kind of curious how you manage all that. Because I know you're on YouTube, you're on podcasting, and you're doing Instagram. I think you're on Twitch as well, which is something I'm not as deep on. How's it all going for you? How do you keep the balance?
Yeah. Well, all those things coupled with the fact that as of 2 weeks ago, I have a newborn. I'm a new father right now. I have
Congratulations.
a 13-year-old. Yes. Thank you so much, man. Girl dad, and loving that so much. So that's affecting, how much time and all that kind of stuff in this sort of new phase of my life. But I would say, it's a lot to manage many platforms. I've learned that there's a few things. If you go on YouTube or if you research and like find out what the answer is for the number of platforms that you should be on or the number of platforms that you have to be on or which platforms you have to be on, all these types of things, it's kind of like I've learned, this is like a very introspective thought. People's, answer to that question is not factual. It very much varies on so many factors. And one of the most important factors is it varies on like the individual, like it varies on me, for example. Let's throw it out there, very similar to making music. Like I have in front of me right here, a Roland Phantom 06 keyboard that I recently got. I love it. It sits on my desk, it's lightweight. And after making music for many, many years, I've discovered that my bread and butter in terms of making music is having a keyboard that has the ability to create patterns and make music directly on the keyboard, as opposed to needing to connect it to a digital audio workstation. And so that was a long journey for me to figure that out. But if you rewind back to when I first started and looking at something like Ableton and saying to myself, like, okay, I know that many, Grammy award-winning artists and many famous people and people who are super successful use digital audio workstations. They sit at a computer, they have a keyboard and another, QWERTY keyboard and a mouse, and they're clicking and they're playing and they're doing all this stuff. And for me, for a long time, it's always felt like I did not like the idea of utilizing my QWERTY keyboard and mouse, which is what's more of a business and work related thing, right? Versus just playing on a keyboard. But I tried to fight that for so long. I'm like, I know that's how I feel, but if these other people are doing it and everyone online is saying that this is what you have to do or should do, like I need to kind of force myself to like really work through that workflow. So I kind of liken that to, the platform thing. Like you mentioned, Instagram, YouTube, and now recently, like I started getting back, into Anchor, realizing that, Spotify's video platform that we were talking about earlier is an audience that is almost definitely more likely to be interested in this type of thing versus YouTube. So, I'm still going to put it on YouTube, but I created a second channel for YouTube now. So it's like only people who want the long form content will go there to get it. My main Khordmaster is going to be the Zelda song that I posted the other day and like fun things and music tutorials and stuff. But yeah, I love what you said too about getting to the bottom of it, because like I've had so many just amazing conversations, Brian, over the past several years, and even prior to starting to record them and publish them. And, that's kind of what made me think like, I really want to get on a platform so that I can share these conversations with others. So that's a big part of why I do what I do. But man, and I know you're going to be able to relate to this. The other part is like, we have the ability right now to do what you and I are doing right now. Like, I didn't know you were a teacher. That's going to be a whole nother thing that I'm gonna flip the interview later, if you don't mind. Be like, yo, I have some questions for you about teaching, because teaching is incredible. I loved every single thing about teaching my first year, coming from an engineering background, working at Verizon, and then realizing I had to do something different, make more of an impact. And I taught middle school math at Princeton Charter School near where I live in Jersey. And it never felt like work ever the entire first year. It never, ever, ever felt like work. There was one time I got mad though. This girl in my class, like, she was sitting down in the class, and she was like a girl that kind of gave me like a little bit of trouble and stuff like that, right? And it was a small group. It was like only, I think, 4 or 5 students in this class, so a really, really small class. So I was at first, I'm like, oh, it's only 5 kids. This is like a workshop. This is gonna be easy, but not so fast,
Not
And so
always.
this girl, at 1 minute, she's sitting down. I'm sitting in the front of the class. I think, I don't know if we were taking a test or I don't remember exactly what we were doing, but she's sitting there. Out of nowhere, she gets up and she runs, like, darts towards me, towards the front of the room, and then sneezes, like, in my direction. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, why did that happen? What just happened? And then I realized afterwards that she's about to sneeze while she's sitting down, and she's running to try to get a tissue, which is on my desk, and she just wasn't able to hold it in long enough. And you can't be mad at it. I mean, I was mad, of course, but you can't be like too mad at it, that type of thing. So that's like something that experiences like my eighth grade versus faculty basketball game that I was excited for the entire school year, and went in early that day, like wore basketball gear, warmed up in the gym, excited. I had one of my students like actually go to my YouTube channel and like print out a picture of me. I have a fan, all that kind of stuff. And I was just so hyped that I was in the moment, and I scored 0 points, Brian, because I was just so excited. And I was also like, I wasn't ready for the moment, because I was like, these are 8th graders. So I'm like a man, I'm an adult. I play basketball, like, decently, like every so often, more of an energy player, not as much of like a really talented kind of guy basketball wise. But like, I couldn't stay with the kids as well as I would have expected, as a 33 or 34-year-old man at the time. But it's just like all these memories, man, participating in the ugly sweater contest, even though I didn't volunteer to do it, but I happened to wear an ugly sweater, and someone called out, one of the teachers called out, and it was more of a popularity contest. So that was a moment for me. I won second place at this contest. All these kids are like clapping for me and cheering for me. And I was like, this is the most amazing moment ever. I got to play piano at the Martin Luther King Assembly, which I was almost like I was terrified to do. I was like thinking of an excuse not to be at school that day. 'Cause I was like, I had never played in front of people before at that point, but I did it. And it was just like amazing experience. I got like almost emotional about some of the speeches that the students were given about MLK. And mind you, this is a predominantly white township, and predominantly white faculty staff members at the school. I would say the student body is somewhat more diverse, but it's still majority white. But being there, being in that setting, and just being to myself like, man, I fit right in. It felt great. It felt great being myself amongst people who may or may not be used to seeing me. And I took that. I knew that was going to be an opportunity to do that, to make an impact in the faculty lives and everything. And you can see me talking. People who are going to be listening and watching this, I could see that, like, when you can talk about something that passionately, it's up to you. It's extremely important, and up to you to make sure that you're still involved in that space. Like, don't let that become so far because of any other reasons, because God put us on this earth. Now we're getting religious. God put us on this earth to really be like to really listen to that type of thing that's calling you. And so that's where the tutoring business comes into play. And it's all virtual now, but you better believe that by the year's end, I'm already putting things in place to like have the location. So we're doing in-person stuff, which is going to make my enjoyment level, a lot more being in person and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I'm glad we're done with online schooling. It's one thing I think as an adult to take like a college class or something online. You can get a
Yeah.
lot out of it, but as a kid, like you gotta have those social interactions. And for
Oh
a
yeah.
lot of kids, that's everything. That's their entire life is wrapped up in school, their sports, their hobbies, their games, their friends, their, work is all in that place. And it it was rough doing that all online, but
Yeah.
because you miss the connection, you miss those little things. Like some of the most important things that happen in my day happen in the
Mm.
hallway. They happen
Yep.
like while I'm watching the cafeteria and just have this little conversation with somebody about whatever just came up. Those
Hmm.
little things are hard to measure.
Yep.
I got a taste of that one year when I was split between the two high schools where I work. And I did
Hmm.
one period at one of them and then the rest of the day at the other. And I
Hmm.
always have good relationships with the students. Um, but in that school that I was only there for one period a day, I was just some guy that came in and left. And it really
Hmm.
showed me how much it mattered to be in the hallway and just be like, "Hey, what's up, Johnny? How you
Yeah.
doing? What are
Yeah.
you guys up to?" Just
Yeah.
little nonsense like that goes so
Absolutely.
far. You miss that.
How long have you been teaching for?
16 years.
Wow. So you're a
Yeah,
lifelonger. You
I
you
guess
love it
so.
too. You love it, don't you?
I do, but I'm not gonna sit here and tell you it's all rainbows and unicorns either.
Sure.
It's also very emotionally draining.
Mm,
Just
yeah.
mentally draining. Trying to like convince them to care sometimes and trying to
Hmm.
motivate.
Yeah.
I think I'm lucky with English because I can kind of tie anything to English. I can find something interesting and just get an article on it. We can read it, and now we're doing
Yeah.
English. I would imagine math would be a lot harder,
Yeah.
but even still, like when I teach music production and I do it at school too as an after school program,
Oh, how
those
cool, man.
people come willingly and happy to learn and they stay to the bell. you know, they wish there was more time, but
Mhm.
the other classes, like, they'll stand and wait at the door for 10 minutes if I would allow them to, so they can just get out of there.
Where are you based out of again?
Long Island, New York.
Oh,
Not too
you
far
wow.
from you. Yeah.
Yeah, not far at all. Wow, Jersey. Okay. All right. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's very cool that we're having this conversation. Because I purposefully didn't do I mean, I did a little bit of research, but I didn't want to know too much about you. I wanted to like learn about you during the conversation. Um, and I didn't know anything about the teaching aspect. What I have been like curious about and like looking at is like, okay, you have your podcast that you focus on, that's a major part of what you do. And then I was interested in like looking behind you, you have the synth gear, you have the gear back right, staring right at it right now. So like I see that you had, if I'm not mistaken, I think well, certainly like you have things that you sell on your website. Were
Right.
they? I don't remember if they were classes or if they were like sample packs or both.
It's both. It's mostly Ableton Live packs.
Uh huh. Okay.
So sounds I've made, samples based stuff mostly, but a lot of experimental things. There's
Yeah.
some courses too, but yeah, those
That's
are like two of the big things I do
yeah.
with this. For me, kind of an interesting thing, which I think you're getting at yourself, is I never saw these two aspects of my life as something that would work together. I always kept them separate, the teaching
Yeah.
and the music. And I didn't really tell the music about the teaching and the teaching about the music. But once I kind of embraced that and just let it happen, because I found myself, especially when I started the podcast, I was like, a lot of these like life lessons I bring up at school are becoming podcast episodes of my own. And I
Sure.
started to see the connection. And half the time we have conversations on this podcast about music, but we could be talking about anything. It could be life, it could be love, it could be you name it. Like music works so well as like a metaphor for everything else. But once I
That's
started embracing that and just kind of letting them feed each other, it just became a lot easier. It just
mm-hmm.
made more sense. I guess it was sort of like a be yourself type of thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I didn't
That
understand the connection, until I kind of looked back and I said, oh, this is actually not that different in a lot of
yeah.
ways.
That's a huge realization to have. Even like I like on my content creation journey right now, and as I constantly have such a wide ranging different types of videos on my main YouTube channel that I want to create and do create, and know that like when it comes to things that people are searching for on YouTube, and right now still in this relatively early stage in my YouTube journey, content creation journey, some of the feedback that I got recently really resonated with me, specifically about how I put out a video on, there's an app called Koala Sampler that I use on my iPad, right? And I put out a tutorial video when they came out with an update a few weeks ago. And I was just in a good mood this day. So I was outside. I had my camera, my DJI Pocket camera, which is upstairs, but here's the case for it. It's like a handheld gimbal based, really small camera. So I was outside a nice day and I'm just like talking to the camera. Then I come home, do a little screen share on the iPad, and I just like do this tutorial. And the feedback that I got about the tutorial on that same Patreon call, actually, the people that watched it on there were like, you have a knack for explaining things in a way that's crystal clear and also like crystal clear, approachable, and just genuine. And so that's what, even someone was like, even though I don't have Koala Sampler, I'm not really into music production, I watched that video to the end because I just enjoyed learning, and I enjoy kind of that element that you were able to relay. And that really I guess, poured life into me, and also kind of like reinforced the fact that, yes, education and the music stuff, like being able to explain things in a way that's clear and makes sense, and while still being yourself, as you mentioned, that's one of, I think, the avenues that I really want to kind of focus in on here. And not, I don't want to say that making other content for my YouTube channel is a distraction from that. But the way YouTube works is, it's like the stuff that you make, you want to try to focus in and make sure that even if you're making a different kind of video, it really should be something that your core audience is still going to watch. And for a long time, that's not what I was doing at all. That was like, I had, one minute I'm, doing a piano tutorial. The next minute I have, which is like a 5-minute tutorial. Next minute I have an hour-long conversation with the highest ranking African-American FBI officer, which was an amazing conversation. One of my first on my show. But at that point, it wasn't focused on content creators and music. And so I had to kind of learn that even though there's a commonality for me, because I'm interested in all this, that's why I'm doing it, there's not necessarily a commonality for my audience. And I'm not big enough. I don't have enough gravitational pull from a perspective of people willing to watch what I'm putting out, even if it's not something that they're interested in, just because I'm in it. That's not who I am yet, right? I mean, some people maybe are, some people as I'm growing, but generally speaking, like if you want to kind of grow and get that audience, like a lot of people say the core and focusing in on something specific and then branching out a little bit later.
So yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, I put everything on my YouTube. I put the podcast, and that's quite different than like when I'm making a pack or when I'm doing a tutorial.
Sure.
And I do notice the podcast videos get much less traction than the other stuff. I don't know, I guess I'm okay enough with that now that I don't want to be bothered with another channel to have to manage.
Sure.
But I get what you're saying, and I could see how that could be maybe a little disappointing or confusing, maybe is a better word for the audience. Because as a viewer myself, there's definitely people whose stuff I watch just because it's them. That's who they are, and they're fun for whatever reason. They could be talking about anything.
Yeah.
But then there's other people where I'm looking for the information, and if they maybe like showed me their cat doing tricks one week, I'd be like, well, what the heck is this?
Yeah, this is not what I'm here for. What's going on?
Yeah. Know thy audience, right? It's an important part of what you're doing.
I'll tell you this, when it comes to the change that I made, I had a person on my show by the name of Nick Nimmin, who's like a YouTube guru or whatever you want to call it, someone who knows a ton about YouTube and makes a ton of videos and has been very helpful in my journey. And he was gracious enough to be on my show. And before I even finish that part of the conversation, what I was going to mention earlier about having a platform like you and I have is we kind of have like free master classes, don't we? Right? We have the ability to sit here and listen to someone in varying levels of experience and talent and learn from them. And so we get a lot of knowledge and then be able to, share it with our audience. So for me, being able to, sit with Nick for an hour and a half and him give me a ton of things that were like, Kevin, if I had your talent on the keys, I would be doing this on YouTube. So he's like pouring me like all these little tidbits and stuff. And oh yeah, one of the things that circling back was about having the separate channels for the long form content, the interviews, as well as the other stuff that I do. And he said that to me, and I knew that that's something I should do, but for the same reason, I didn't want to have multiple platforms. That just didn't interest me. So I didn't do it for quite a while, several months later. And then finally I decided to do it. I was like, okay, I think now's the time. I'm starting to rebrand a little bit. I rebranded the name to Khordmaster Keys. And I knew I was going to do like an official, podcast and on the Anchor platform and stuff. So I was like, now's a good time. And I'll tell you this, the fact that I've gotten quite a few comments from people who discovered my that second page from maybe one of the earlier videos, and they may have watched the entire thing, and YouTube is like, oh, you might like this other one that Kevin, that Khordmaster is putting out. And you see the comments come, and these are people I've never seen on my other channel because maybe they're not interested in koala sampler tutorials. So it is more work, a little bit, not that much crazier, but it brings me more excitement for each release because I know that it's going somewhere where people are specifically there for this. Like I didn't promote it on Facebook. Hey guys, I have a new page. It's like, it's there. If you're looking for it, you can find it. It's linked to my other page and stuff. But I only want people who are really, really into that and try to let the algorithm work for me a little bit,
Yeah. Hey, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think about it.
Yeah, it's a thought, man. Hey, look, you do, just like I said before, the main thing is that everyone's situations are different. So when people so matter-of-factly say things on YouTube and they have experience and they might be right about what they're saying for them and for most, but it just might not be right for you. And so that's like the biggest thing for me is like, and even me, when I make videos and, you look at some of my older videos and I don't know if I don't remember if I did this explicitly, but now I'm focused on how I communicate in a way that I'm sharing, like if I'm hyped about something, I'm going to share why I'm hyped about it. And maybe that hypeness might get you curious about it enough to check it out, as opposed to before, like, saying, oh, I have a new keyboard. This is the best keyboard for this. Like really, it's kind of similar to the first example, but really trying to get people to like get an item, even if it's not an affiliate link or anything like that for me. That was kind of my sort of angle a little bit on some earlier videos that I was doing. But now it's just like organic, is genuine. It's like I said, when I'm in the mood to record, I'm going to record, as opposed to when I'm like, I don't feel like it right now. I'm not having a good day. How that video is probably not going to be good. I'm like mopey or not like excited, not energetic. So I'm listening to those types of things. And it definitely seems to be working now, like making me enjoy the process more and just kind of let it flow,
Yeah. And I see that in a lot of people's work where you kind of can tell if they're into it, or if they're just creating content, because you got to create content. And there's always that pressure. Like if you want to be any sort of relevant in any sort of community, it's like, you got to keep doing it, keep pumping it out.
Yeah.
But, for me to kind of like make some decisions, this podcast is a good example. It's largely unedited. It's mostly what you hear is what you get. If a guest ever wants to take something out, I always, do that for them, which I forgot to tell you in the beginning, but that's something you have. If something comes out you don't want to say, just let me know. We won't put it out.
Right.
Other than that, unless there's some interruption, it just goes out the way it is. And I had the dream of doing the podcast for probably like 2 years before I even did it. And it was going to have like segments. It was going to be a sound design part, a tutorial part. There'd be like video that always went with it, and it got so big in my head that it was impossible to do. And I had to just one day say, what's the least amount of, production I need? And that's just a microphone. Can I even do that? I had to see if I could even do that. And it turns out, since I'm used to running my mouth in front of a classroom, I was able to do it. And it's funny, like a lot of these episodes like wind up when I'm by myself exactly as long as like a class period. Like I'm just programmed for that amount of time.
Yeah, sure.
But it was this kind of thing that you're getting at too, that you have to make it work for you, because if there's a much better way to do it, but you're not ever going to do it, then it's not a good way. It's almost like what's the best way to work out? What's the best diet? It's the one you're going to keep, the one you're going to stick to. I could probably figure out a better diet, but I'll fall off the wagon on that. But what I got going now is working, and I can adhere to that. And, I think that's something to consider with all that we do. And a lot of people have figured out things that just work well for them, and it's their personality, and it comes through. And then what you find sometimes with people, when you follow them from the early times too, they're hustling at it like every week. They're putting out 2 videos or something, and then they sort of find their thing, and then they can space it out a little more and actually put more effort and detail and focus on the quality of it. Because I like there are certain things about all the stuff I do that I love, and certain parts that are the work. We were kind of, I think before we started, we were talking about some of the tedious things you have to do every once in a while, like managing, your website or something. That if I was always doing that stuff, I'd never make it. So you have to figure out like what you enjoy, what you're willing to do, and put it into that. I'd rather do something like with the podcast. I like doing them, like talking to a lot of people for all the reasons you said. It's a masterclass. Sometimes it feels like I'm getting away with something. Like, okay, they're willing to talk to me. All right,
man, that's relatable. Yep.
But if I was, there's some podcasts that are like great productions, lots of cool sound and like things that are going on. If that was what I was into, then that's one thing, but it's not, and maybe there would be more people listening if I had cool like Zoom noises between like segments and, like interesting ways of cutting it together. But you got to do what works for you, and
that's it. And it's something that you enjoy. And like you said, man, there's a lot that you said that's definitely relatable. Yeah. First of all, yes, something that you enjoy is more realistic and more likely that you're going to be able to be consistent with it. And then I also love what you said about this whole thing about when you look at someone who's successful in what they're doing and you see similar type of content from them over the past several months or something, or even let's say several months. And then like, I love doing the scroll down or in YouTube, looking at the oldest videos and seeing where that point was, where like, I think about Mark, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Rebele. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's like a loop daddy is his name. Is like his moniker. And
he's in the robe, right? He wears the bathrobe a lot. Yeah.
Yes.
He's
and
awesome.
Moving and those funny lyrics and stuff. So he's incredible. And so, like I was like, okay, how did he get here? I was just curious, like what was that first video for him that he realized, okay, me in a robe with this microphone with like a snake tail, the cable on it or something like that. He had sometimes, or not snake tail, like a leopard, like tail kind of thing or whatever. But I went on his YouTube channel and looked at like, okay, filter from oldest to newest. What was the first thing you uploaded to YouTube, Mark? Let me find out. And I'm like looking, and I don't remember what it is, but it was something not at all what he's doing now. And then look, and then you see the first video that's like some semblance of what it is now. I love that. That's to me, that is so inspiring because you can really, really learn and understand that no one pretty much has like got the answer from day one.
Hmm.
Like there's a trial and error, and hopefully if you're mindful enough about it, that there's that you can't and shouldn't take things too serious. Like, make sure that you're enjoying what you're doing, and if you're not, then take a step back and kind of reassess. I think about social media, Brian, and I say to myself, I posted something about it, ironically, on social media. I posted, but by the end of the year, I want to be off. I want to be not on social media. That's a goal of mine. And how do I do that as a content creator? Do I have just a presence on YouTube? And I mean, Twitter is social media. So when I say I want to be off social media, specifically like Instagram is like the main thing. Pros and cons. Pros, if I didn't have Instagram, there's a low percent chance that I'll be able to meet you or people like you to be able to connect with. I mean, I could maybe have found you on Twitter or somewhere else, but it's a less percent chance, I think, because like it's been so fun and easy and effective to find people on Instagram. That's a pro. And a pro is that there's a chance for me to get my content out there so people can see it and see what I'm doing. Cons, where do I start? Cons are, it's a huge time sink. It's, for me personally, the times where I've taken breaks from Instagram and social media as a whole, including YouTube Studio, and deleted everything from my phone and only kept it on my tablet, and gone weeks doing that. I'm considerably happier and just like, okay, this is nice. I like this, right? That's something I'm very mindful about. So, but then I'm like, and I was like using this as like my work iPad. All right. And my phone, it doesn't have any of that stuff on it. So I can't check it like any time of the day, whenever I want. Then I'm like, I'm trying to post this thing now, and it's becoming a little bit arduous having to airdrop from my phone to the iPad and do all this stuff. I'm like, let me just download it real quick. I'm only going to use it, once or twice, or once just for this thing. And then I get back into the cycle. And so I'm mindful, very mindful about when I feel like I've just been on my phone too long for the wrong reasons. Like swipe, if I'm on my phone all day and like reading Bible verses or something like that, or reading books or something, perfect. That's amazing. But if I'm on there like I was the other day, and I'm swiping on YouTube Studio to see every time I get a new subscriber, or I'm swiping on, Instagram to see every time I get a new like or something like that is something that is objectively terrible. And I know that, but I haven't figured out yet how to traverse that, how to control it, because as you probably know, there's some extremely smart and almost evil, I don't know, people programming, right, ways to keep us on the app. Like when you click on that app and you're like, okay, why is it that the top 3 or 4 stories that are up top are just people who you just have to see what they're doing? They're not like people that you don't interact with that you also follow. They're like, they know that you're going to click that. They know that you want to see what they're doing and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that to me is like really, is really troubling. And I also find it fascinating when I meet people. My brother and sister are 2 people in this category who are like my generation, but just aren't social media people. Like my sister she just doesn't have it, doesn't use it or whatever. And I'm like, how in the world did that happen? We grew up in the same generation. We grew up in the same house. How did that happen that you're just not interested? Obviously, we're different people, but I think I think it was on my birthday one time when she was visiting. She lives in California, lives in Oakland, and we were just sitting at my parents' house on the deck. And it was around the time where I had watched. Have you seen the social network, social experiment? What's the name of that?
Social Dilemma.
Social Dilemma. Yes.
Literally showing it to my classes now. Like we're
Get
doing
out.
a research paper on this right now.
Oh my God.
They're like, big
Stop
question
talking.
is,
how was that going? Tell me about that.
Oh God. The big question is social media harmful or helpful to teenagers? That's what they have to answer.
You're amazing at not interrupting like I just did, because I would have interrupted a long time ago. You're literally doing this right now, but no, that's dope. I want to hear about this.
Well, it's a funny question to ask them. Like, how many of you use Instagram, TikTok, and everyone's hand goes up.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, well, these are the richest companies ever. The Facebook, Google, richest companies ever. How many of you have ever paid for that? And they'll No one, and like no one pays for that. Then
Mm-hmm.
how did they get so rich? And
Wow. Yeah.
sometimes the answers I get from them are comical, like, well, the government makes it, or it's for
Uh-huh.
charity, or it's like, nope.
Wow.
And then I
Wow.
show them this movie just so they can like understand. And the thing is, like, it's the power, the draw of it is so fine tuned and like perfect
Mm-hmm.
that you can know everything that it's doing to you and you still can't resist it. And all those
Mm-hmm.
people in that documentary, the people that created these systems are like, I even can't resist it. Like I'm the magician and they're
Mm-hmm.
doing the trick and I'm still like, wow, how did you do that?
Yeah. Oh my God.
So you're
Yes.
you're right. And it for like someone making content, I think the only reason I'm on social media is because I'm doing this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true or not. Like if I stopped tomorrow, would I just delete it? Because I don't know. I learn a lot from it, Like my feed is very well curated to exactly what I'm into because
Mm-hmm.
it knows me really well.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I get exactly what I want to see most of the time.
Right.
But yeah, it's a little like depressing when you especially if you check like your screen time and you see how many hours you're putting in and you just think like, what would I do with that time if I had it back?
Mm-hmm.
Or the real thing that's been messing with my brain lately is if I was 15 years old right now, I started playing guitar at 14,
Mm-hmm.
would I have picked up that guitar or would have I just kept scrolling?
Oh yeah.
And I think 90% of the reason I picked up guitar was I was bored, there was nothing else to do. I played my video games or no one could hang out that day. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have like this, like almost like a pacifier really to just keep me from boredom.
Yeah.
So I went through the difficulty of learning guitar and my fingers hurting and not being able to play anything and, getting frustrated at the beginning stages, but just powering through it. I don't know if I would have done that today at that age.
Because you have the ultimate pacifier in
Yeah,
social
you
media.
don't have to be bored anymore.
Yeah. At all.
And that
Yeah.
was a major motivation for me to do a lot of the things I did as a kid. Like, I'm bored.
Mm-hmm.
What should I do? I don't know if I would, I don't know if I'd be here if that was my
Mm-hmm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of freaks me out a little bit because was I just lucky that I wasn't born, a couple
Right.
of years later, basically?
Right. Right. And that could have been, yeah, I mean, that's a powerful sentiment right there, man. I have to ask the question because you mentioned guitar. What, in your opinion, is the cooler or better instrument? Guitar or keyboard/piano?
Oh, guitar. Come on. Cooler?
If you ask, well, if you ask me, as I have never played a guitar before,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna say guitar. I have to say guitar too. It's weird. People, that's blasphemy because I have all these keyboards. I'm a piano player and all this, but there's something about like I'm gonna learn guitar, by the way. Like it's 1,000% gonna happen. But when I think about what would be so much fun for me, and I've done it a little bit with my lightweight Casio keyboard over there that's battery operated, is like playing an instrument outside at a park. And so you can do it with the Casio. You have to have like a little X stand and maybe like a stool, and it's kind of cumbersome. But I'm excited for the day to have specifically an acoustic guitar and just go to a park. And I sing a little bit too. I shouldn't say a little bit. I can sing. I think quite well, not amazing, but quite well. And that would be so much fun, just sitting with a guitar and just singing. So that's something that I know I want to eventually, kind of get on track with. But it's a blessing to have this creative outlet that we have, that is music. And for others who may be listening that are visual artists or home designers or arts and crafts or whatever it is. Like my wife is into crafting and plants as well. And so like whatever like that, like it's crucially important to like acknowledge how lucky and fortunate we are to have found that outlet, because you probably know, and I certainly do know, many who don't have such an outlet. Maybe their outlet is Netflix, which, by the way, we watched this crazy good show called it's not on Netflix, called The White Lotus, I think it's called. Have you heard of this before?
No.
I hadn't. I just did some research because my wife and I have been into like the mini series kick lately of like, just a few episodes. And you would love it too, because you're like you're doing something that's like a social conversation about something, and this is like kind of a satire. I'll just use that word, as even though you don't know it is, but that's kind of what the show is. But it's just so easy to watch, and I think amazing acting. So yeah, I'm like all about it. We just finished it. I know a show is good or not for me if after I'm done watching it, if I'm sad that it's over. Not a profound statement to make necessarily, but when I'm happy that it's over, it's like, okay, that was not good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got through it, but that was not good. I was like sad that, and they renewed it for a second season, but it's going to be like an anthology series, kind of like Fargo or Black Mirror or something like that. Do you watch Black Mirror, by the way?
Yeah, that was a great show. Yeah.
That was too good. That probably like at the top for me, especially that Black Museum episode. I mean, all of them were good, but Black Museum with the callbacks to the old episodes and stuff.
Oh, I don't know if I saw that.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was second to last season.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Well, go back to what you said about keyboard and guitar. Like, obviously they're both amazing instruments. When you said cooler, though, I'm picturing like on stage, you can't really be like rolling around on the floor playing your keyboard or crowd surfing with your guitar or with your keyboard, right? The piano.
Right. True. That's true.
But you do make a great point about just the freedom you get with an acoustic guitar. And like I spent so much time over the last, I guess, like 2 decades now, like playing music, recording music, doing it through a computer, that sometimes I pick up my acoustic guitar and I just can't believe that all I have to do is strum it. Like there's nothing to plug in. Yeah. There's no electronics. There's no connections. It just works. It's like the ultimate technology in a way, So it's
so cool.
You would love it. For that.
Yeah.
It is very liberating. And, I think though, whatever you learn to express yourself on is what's cool. And, you got that. That's great. I mean, why not?
Have you ever played the guitar with your eyes closed and notice anything special that happens? Like different than when your eyes are open?
Well, I think sometimes when you close your eyes or you're in the dark even, there's a little more, for one, you're more focused. Your attention is more focused on the hearing. But sometimes you just kind of trust your hands a little bit. You kind of just, because it's so easy on any instrument, I think, to get into patterns and just kind of, this is what I do automatically. Probably half the time I pick up a guitar, probably the first thing I play is like a G chord or something. It's just what you do when you pick it up. So sometimes changing things, mixing it up, or taking the lights out can be that.
It's major. I asked that, everything you said is those 2 specific points about turning the lights off are kind of why I ask it. Like specifically the first thing about your brain is processing what you're seeing when your eyes are open. And a major part of your brain is processing that. Like, I forget the percentage, like 30%, something like that. And so when your eyes are closed and your brain is now like expanded, like that 30% is not being used for that. It's like resources that are now allotted to do something else. And I kid you not, I told the story a few times. I was playing Bach. I was playing the Prelude by Bach one night, maybe like last year or something. And it was late and I closed my eyes when I was playing because I was trying to practice it for that very reason, to see if I had the fingering correct. And when I was playing it, I closed my eyes and I felt as though I was like lifted off, like I guess an outer body experience, maybe lifted off of the seat on the, like I didn't feel like I was sitting down anymore. And I'm still playing and I feel like I'm hovering. And then at some point, as I'm continuing, I'm like, wait a second, this feels so weird and interesting. And like, what is happening here? No drugs, no alcohol, no nothing, just straight up in the music kind of thing. And then at some point I'm still playing, and now I feel as though like almost like close to like doing like a handstand. Like I'm much higher, and my keys are my hands are the only thing that are like making contact with anything in the room. Like it literally felt like that. And I'm like, wait a second. And at that point, I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, what's happening? And I do research and find out that that's part of what is happening, is that your brain is doing weird things, right? Because is able to. So discoveries like that, man, are just absolutely breathtaking. And I love talking about that because it's like it's with other musicians, other creators, because it's like relatable. If I share that with someone who's not, not that, it's like, oh, that's weird. Moving on. Did you watch the Knicks game yesterday?
Well, I see what you're saying. Like, it sounds crazy, honestly, but I get it. Like
Yeah.
I would. It only probably makes sense to talk about something like that with another musician, because it would sound, it sounds kind of weird and nuts and like,
Yeah.
okay, like,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
there's something weird that goes on, and
Oh yeah.
you definitely have these like kind of like you get possessed almost, or like swept up in something, like playing music with my buddies, and we got like a 3-piece rock band going. Like
Nice.
sometimes we listen back to what we did and we're like, what happened? Like
Mm,
sometimes just the whole song comes out off a
mm,
jam and it's just there it is. And that's,
wow.
we're like, where
How?
does this, it's like we didn't write it because it came out as it was happening.
Mhm.
So it's
It's
just
wild.
magic and weird. And I think if you weren't a musician, you'd probably say, well, you guys, they've got 35 years of experience between the three of you. And, you
Hmm.
can like scientifically explain it away.
Hmm.
But it's not scientific at all at the same time.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just
Super
like a
true.
vibe takes over, and we all just, we're on it at the same time.
Hmm. Hmm. And you can't really explain that. I've recently had a chance to, and I haven't done it in a while since like pretty much COVID and then kind of being, pseudo lockdown with the baby girl on the way for, 9 months. But I was, able to go to a friend of mine's house and who plays the guitar, the cooler of the two instruments. And we were just, we were jamming, man. We were actually working on doing and hopefully we'll be able to still do it, but there's like a wine bar that I visited for my birthday like 2 years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago, or maybe last year. And it was like a 3-piece band, guitar, drums, and keys. And they were playing, black guys, right? Playing. I walk in and I'm like, yo, this stands out to me. Like I don't see this often. I didn't expect to see this here, right? And you guys are killing it. And so I think as soon as I came in, I saw the guy obviously look at the keyboard. I'm like, okay, curious to know what keyboard it is first and foremost. I mean, look at it. That's dope. Like talking to him a little bit, told him it's my birthday, told him I play keys. And then he was like, oh, you might have to, he's like, if you want, he's like, you could, step in for a couple of songs. And now, so this is 2 years after the other story I told you where I was like, oh my God, I can't play in front of my students kind of thing. This time I was like, oh, absolutely. Like, let me absolutely get up there and do that. And I did. And we played, I think I played just the two of us and best part, two different like chord progressions that I know really well. And they were able to just boom, hear it, pick it up. And it was like a magical moment. So yeah, fast forward, a few months later, got in touch with the coordinator, music coordinator, I guess that's his title at that place. And he was absolutely down to have me there. It's a paid gig. It could have been just me or me and like if I knew a person who plays guitar, which I do. So we were practicing a little bit for that. And then, it kind of fell by the wayside because what happened actually that was kind of interesting. We were practicing a lot and like I was streaming a lot at that time. So I was able to I'm able to hop on stream for 3 hours and do 3 hours worth of talking and playing and content. And I was like, I'm good with that. But it turned out, and it was an interesting thing, you probably could relate to this being in a prog band. Like now that we're practicing together, we need to be like in sync in order for it to sound as good as we want it to be. So it takes a lot more practice. So just because I'm good at 3 hours worth of content or 3 hours plus, I know all these different chord progressions and songs, doesn't mean that it's going to take a while for us to feel confident to the point where we can play together and it sound good because, maybe you don't know these ones. I don't know those. So it was like an interesting thing. It was going to take a while longer than I had originally thought. I was like, oh, we practice for 2 days and we could just go there and just jam or whatever, which we could have done, but it wouldn't necessarily have been like probably on point. Whereas if I go by myself, I can go there and just jam out by myself. And I mean, I think it would be just fine, that type of thing. So it was like, it was an interesting thought,
Hmm. You're a classically trained pianist, it says on your page, right?
Yeah.
So you've been playing,
Yeah.
I guess, since you were a little kid.
You know what? Classically trained, but started when I was 30, 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
I played a little bit as a kid, but I took 1 year of lessons, and the story goes, I asked to take the summer off from my parents, and they said, okay, I'll join back in the fall, but I never did. And then from that moment all the way until I turned 30, that was sixth grade until I turned 30. I dabbled. I was still interested, but I never really started playing again. And then I, went on YouTube, went to the old original book that I still have that I teach piano from, the physical same book from sixth grade. Still had it, went through that whole thing, went on YouTube, signed up for actual lessons in person as well. And just been on that journey of like, I'm an adult now. I have the luxury, let's call it, to be able to practice as much as I want to get myself to where I want to get. And yeah, love it, man. And it's the thing with piano, it's like, I love playing some Mozart and stuff. I love that. But I also love playing chord progressions that sound beautiful to songs that are recognizable, but put my little spin on it so it sounds a little bit different, and maybe changing the tempo so you don't even know what it is, but it sounds familiar, oddly familiar. Like, I love that type of stuff. That's kind of what I'll go through months of doing the first thing and then not do that for months and then focus this way. And it's been just beautiful. I absolutely love doing that, having that outlet.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's cool that it's a little bit later in life, right, to be starting something. And,
Yeah.
People all the time say, like, I was too old. I should have started when I was a kid. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, if you would have started 5 years ago, you'd be playing for 5 years. You'd be awesome by now,
Yep. That's so true.
There's something really different about when you play with other people. It's not just playing the same parts at the right time. And I noticed this because I'm not trained to read music. I didn't play in the high school band, the orchestra or anything like that. I just played in like rock bands with my friends, but I always played with other people. That's how I learned, just playing with other people. And I found when we got together with like some of the kids in high school that were really excellent musicians in the band, and they read music, they play whatever you put in front of them, but they had a hard time playing with us, just kind of free. And it was surprising to me because they're undeniably talented. They have skill on their instrument. They sound great.
Yeah.
But it's a different skill, I guess. There's just something about the way things flow with another person. And I find even when I play with other musicians, it takes a while to get the feel of other people. It's not just playing with other people, but it's specific people too. There's certain people I've been playing with for, most of my life, and it's easy. It just falls together.
Yeah.
And then I could play with somebody that's 10 times more talented, but we don't have that like thing going yet where like I kind of get where you're going and you kind of get where I'm going.
Right.
Totally. So it makes sense to me. Like, if you gave me like some music and some chords and said, hey, we're going to play a show next week, we'll practice like the day before.
Yeah.
I know, like, I'm nervous about that because like maybe I could do it on my own and you can do it on your own. But like when we get together, we're going to like be pushing and pulling each other in different directions slightly. That we're just gonna have to learn to get used to that. And I think that's where the beauty comes from, is when you start to like fall in with another person when you're playing together. But there is certainly a little bit of like you're both pulling on the rubber band or something.
That's interesting. It is.
Yeah, that's cool though. I mean, I'm sure you guys just get together enough. that you'll just, it just gels after a while, and then
Oh,
it like
totally.
doesn't even matter what you play. You just fall
Yeah.
together.
And I mean, even coming up with like that's why I definitely want to revisit it. He actually had a ski accident where he had to get surgery on his knee. He's doing fine and stuff, but he's still like recovering and stuff now.
Mm.
And so I'm thinking about, man, yeah, we had fun going through what would be our set list, because we both have a quite pretty vast knowledge of music and wide ranging. So, we had things like Take Five, forget the name of the band, but the old song from like decades ago. The one that's dun 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 dun. So that one, we were like, that's a song that we can play in there. And then we had obviously like more recent stuff, like so Chris Brown, Kanye West. We had some rock stuff in there. We had and then there was one moment where we had a Kanye song, Flashing Lights, I think. And then we were doing, what's the name of what's this other song that we were doing? I'm not gonna I'm not gonna really remember it, but it's a rock, like a soft rock song. I think the genre was, and we were learning both of them, and we noticed that the chords, it was the same chords, and it was just a 2-chord song. Both of them were the same chords, just like opposite. And so we're like, oh, this is incredible. Like we can start playing this and then slow it down a little bit and then transition. So we were like doing all that type of stuff. I think the set list was like part of what made it even more fun, like realizing that, like, like when you're at a place, and whether it's a place that's like on stage and like a main performance, or just like a coffee shop, or like in my case, like a wine bar, hearing the songs that they play and then being like, wow, this guy is playing, this band is playing this song that I wouldn't have expected them to play. And even if it's just one person in the audience that's like, wow, like they're playing, like that's like a special kind of thing. So that element is exciting versus, having 10 songs that are just the same level of popularity, like that everyone knows kind of thing. That's cool as well. But we were like going deep in the bag, like different genres and everything like that. We're going to revisit it. Just talking about it is making me feel like, we'll have to get back there.
I like that. I think for me personally, that's a little more fun than just sort of like a top 40 kind of run through.
Yeah.
Where there's a little bit of, artistry to even just how stuff is connected, and
Yeah, totally.
why we're going from here to there, and just the overall performance and the ups and downs and the highs and lows of it. Like there's some creativity in that. And I'm not as interested in like hearing the cover band that's spot on playing the hits. Like, that's cool if that's what you do, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I appreciate that more, I guess,
Oh, 100%.
I've been, coming from a lifetime of trying to go out and play original music, and it's so hard to find places to get in to play original music. And, full well, if we were just doing all covers, we could go a lot further with this.
Yeah.
But it's, it's just a different thing. It's a different way of doing music, I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But there's definitely like a lot of cool stuff that can be done when you start thinking of it like you are, where you're trying to find like interesting interpretations and show like that like this Kanye West song is connected with this other song that seems like it's on a different planet, but there's still a lot in common.
That stuff is fascinating. Have you ever seen this before?
What do we got there? Oh, is that the Teenage Engineering Radio?
Yes.
Is it really? Nice.
Bro, this thing. So Teenage Engineering, they were gracious enough to send this to me. Okay. And as like, content creator kind of thing, I'm working on like, one of the things that would make me extremely happy, and I need to send them another email, is understanding that it was a huge win for me to have a company that I purchased like their OPZ over there send me something that's $600. That was a huge win, right? And something that I probably wouldn't have bought otherwise at the time, but in hindsight, now knowing how much I love this thing and how much I use it and how incredibly fun and instant it is, and how it, like, all the things that I love about music, creativity, not all the things, it doesn't have a keyboard on it and stuff like that, but like the spontaneity of it is just it's so much fun to use.
That's definitely something they have a knack for. Like
Yes,
the fun.
exactly.
I have an OP1.
You
And
did.
I've had that since like I think 2011, like pretty
Wow.
early
Yeah.
on. And
Okay.
I still, every time I pick that thing up, I'm like, wow, this thing is so fun. It's so cool. And there's so many approaches you can do to it. And you can go real
Yes.
deep, or you can just turn it on and play. And
Yeah.
I felt that way with the pocket operators. I never played the OPZ, but
Hmm.
this thing is interesting. So that you might have to tell me a little about it. I think it's like a radio, right? But it also has like
Yeah.
looping and
That's exactly right.
recording and
So
kind of features like
we got
that.
time. We got time for a quick demo.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah.
show you this really quick. So if we go to the fact that the fact that it's a radio and it can, play really good quality music is it's great, but that's not something that's worth the price of admission, right? So as I go in here, okay, let's go here. So I'm gonna connect this. So the looping aspect of this, the best way that I can describe it is I'm gonna play a song by Daryl Hall and John Oates. I can't go for that. Okay. Is it playing through here? Not yet. It's not connected. And so what's cool about this thing, okay, there we go. What's cool about it is you hear the music playing. You can't really see what I'm doing. Now you can kind of could. So if you press and hold this, I can slow down what's playing. So right now this is playing through Bluetooth. So this is like slowing down and live, right? So now what's being streamed here, turn the volume down. What's being streamed here is like a little bit ahead of this because this is slower, right? So from here, I can loop a part of the song by pressing and holding those two together and then let go. So right now, that part that I just did is actually looping, which to me is like, okay, that's cool, but how could you do something fun with that? Now it's just looping. Well, now you can do something called slide. I'm gonna go to the part where the lyrics are. So what I do, I'm gonna loop a part here. So I'm gonna loop this part right here and then let go. So that part is looping. And now the fun happens, which is if you think about what's going on here, there's like, let's just simplify it. There's music and then there's vocals that are happening. So the music is the same from this 4-bar to the next 4-bar. The vocals are different. He's saying something different, of course. So what we can do is in time, we can jump either forward or back and it stays in time. And you could make him be saying what he's saying for the first half of this bar and then jump to what he's saying in the second half of the next bar. That makes sense. So it could sound like this. I don't even know the lyrics, but he's saying, you got the bad and now you want my soul. So I can press and hold this button and slide. See that? So you can, I'm not doing it perfectly because I'm holding it in the air, but you can do things like that and really sort of, the way I look at it is like kind of like DJ. Like you can play, like kind of like scratching, you can play something and make it sound familiar because everyone, who knows the song knows what it is, but then I can make him be saying different things by how I turn the knobs, press the buttons. To me, that is insane. And it's something like with my knowledge of music, I've wanted to be able to harness that. And you can harness that by being a DJ and playing music on Twitch or in person and be like, oh man, this guy's playing this song. That's dope that he knows about this song. But now I can kind of do that and make it my own and slow down or speed up and stuff. But so the point I was going to say earlier about this is when it comes to like brand partnerships and stuff, like if I was able to work a deal with Teenage Engineering and have them pay me 10% or even 5%, but let's say 10%, because I have a similar such deal with other brands of sales that happen with this product, I can almost guarantee that I could spike sales for this product from what I can do with it and from how I already naturally talk about it to people like my aunt who, I brought it to my grandparents' house like a while ago, and she's like, what is that? I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you what this is. And I gave her a whole demo. She's like, oh, my husband's my stepson who lives in Chicago is also into content creation. He would love that. I think I'm going to get one of those for him. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, I'm not going to get anything from this, but that's awesome that I kind of introduced it. So I'm like working with them on there's like an ongoing conversation. It kind of got, like, I guess, forgotten about, for lack of a better word, but I need to reach back out, because these are the types of connections and ways that I want to channel my excitement and, as I mentioned earlier, hypeness about a product. I want to be able to talk about things that are truly exciting to me, and really never talk about, I don't want to say never. If a company was like, yo, I'm giving you like mad money for something, and I was only remotely interested in it, let's talk. I can go for mad money. I'll entertain that conversation. But generally speaking, like, I want my audience to be like, to trust me. That's what I want. I want them to trust me, because I'm blessed enough that I don't need money from my content creation side of things, right? The tutoring stuff is where like 90%, if we break down like income and stuff. So that's going on. I can kind of have fun. I can be like hopefully a beacon and like a person in this community of, content creators and musicians who people like, yeah, this guy, Khordmaster, I trust him, and I appreciate what he's doing, and I don't feel, and everyone's not going to feel that way. Everyone, there's different people and all that stuff. But if I can get an audience that believes that about me, and like appreciates and really finds value in what I'm doing, then I'm happy. I'm thrilled with, with how things are going.
That's a blessing that you have, if having another means for your income, right? So like you can rely on your tutoring.
Yeah.
And then this stuff is really just, almost like for fun in a way. And I don't mean that in a negative way, to be like, oh, your little videos. Yeah, it looks like you're having fun, Kevin. Good job. Yeah, not like that at all. But it does give you a freedom, because, there's a lot of people, I talk to them a lot on the podcast, where they are relying on their music or whatever it is, their content for their living. And sometimes that makes you have to do things that you're not as excited about to pay the bill. I got to make this track for this commercial for, this thing that makes children sick and I don't believe in, or whatever it might be, something that
example.
What's that?
Is that a real example?
No. It's just trying to think of like something terrible.
Yeah. It could be though, right? Yeah. I hear you though.
But you know what I'm saying? Like Oda, something that you either aren't feeling passionate about, or even ethically have an issue with. But the fact that you don't have to rely on that does allow you to have that credibility. And I think that's important in that kind of world where you're going to be showing. And, that's like one of the things we always deal with when we're trying to, like, I think we were talking earlier about like getting reviews. This might have been before we hit record, but you go certain places, you go on Amazon, and sometimes you just know like this review was written by like somebody for the company. It's just too perfect. There's really nothing stopping people, as far as I know, from filling out the reviews themselves, really.
Right.
So we have like that kind of like, where are we getting this information from question, but at least like, if they've come to know you, they understand, like, the Khordmaster's not going to send us any place we shouldn't be, that he doesn't believe in himself.
Right. That trust is critical. It really is. I mean, put ourselves in their shoes and think about the people that we watch, and you don't have to go too far in terms of sort of understanding how important that is, because there is so much out there, so much content out there. I want to ask you a question. So do you have because I was working on this the other day, do you have a dream list of guests for your show? Like people that you really want to have on that you haven't asked yet for various reasons?
I mean, yeah, like pretty much anyone that I like in the music world,
Have you reached out?
Sometimes I get bold, there've been a couple times like where, I go out and say, oh, I don't know if they'll say yes. And the worst thing that's happened to me is they either said no, or They didn't answer.
Right.
And the best thing that's happened is they said, "Sure, I'll do it," and that's pretty
Right.
cool too.
That's
Um,
awesome.
you know,
Yeah.
like I've read Jeff Tweedy's book from Wilco. He's How to Write One Song. Great book. I mean, Wilco is an amazing band, but you know, it's a songwriting book that he wrote,
Okay.
and I thought it was awesome. And I found out who his publicist was, and I said, "Hey, would he be willing to be on the show?" And they
Wow.
said, "Sorry, he's busy, you know, for a while." And then I saw like the next day he was on Good Morning America, so I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get it. He is
Right.
busy."
Right. Right.
He's not like the girl at high school that had to wash her hair. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
He really is legitimately busy.
He's
Um,
doing it.
yeah, you never know. You just ask, and sometimes you get lucky, and you know,
Yeah.
it never hurts. I don't
Yeah,
think.
I got my list. I got a list. I'm not gonna share too many people, but I got some neat like people who I think I'm maybe I don't want to say close. Like I think I might be close to being able to continue building this platform, having professional looking videos. Like some of my older ones like look and sound nowhere near as good as like they do now. So I continue doing that. But yeah, I have people like in this tier, and then I have people like down the road. If I wouldn't even say when, because I don't know if I'll continue doing this for the uh, how long I'll continue, but I plan to certainly. Um, but yeah, I think that's cool to have that, right?
Hmm.
That list, it kind of gives you like a little bit of just something to kind of work towards a little bit. My 100th episode, which will be out at some point. I'm on like 91 now, so at some point in the near future, I'm definitely going to have on the person who inspired me to start a YouTube channel, and his name is Henny the Business.
Hmm.
He is a are you familiar with him? The iPad
Yeah, yeah, I had
music.
him on.
You had him on here too?
Yeah, yeah,
Get out. I didn't know that. I got to check that episode out. Damn, that's dope. Okay, very cool.
yeah. Really cool guy. Yeah,
Oh yeah, down there. So that's the guy who the Patreon that I referenced earlier, the Sunday night Patreons that I joined.
nice. Yeah,
And so it's
seems
a
like a great
really
guy.
incredible community that he's created there. And it's small, so it's intimate. It's like 2 Sundays ago when I was at the hospital with my wife for the birth of our child. We have the calls on Sunday nights. So this is a exciting and stressful, of course, time in the lives of us, like how these next few days are going to go. So he sent me a text. I forget exactly what it said, but he basically sent me a text like, oh yeah, it was a selfie of the chat, the Patreon chat that they were having right then in that moment, that I later found out that they were all, I was missing, from this meeting. And obviously I've been there like most of the Sundays before. So Henny was like, oh yeah, I saw that, Khordmaster posted something on Twitter, like be right back becoming a dad. Cause I'm actually working on an album right now for my daughter. Can't wait. I had a date of 5/29. I know I'm all over the place, which is 4 day or 4/29. Yeah. April 29th. Yes. Did I put 5/20? No, 4/29. And I'm very excited for it. But I had a thought just now. It's like it's an instrumental album. I almost am done with the tracks, the instrumental tracks. And then I had a video that I recorded of my wife and I reading these well wishes cards that we received from at the baby shower, that people were like filling out at the table. So like, our daughter's name is Kayla at the time. They didn't know the name. So it was like, baby Alan, I hope that you, and then they fill in the blank kind of thing. It was like 10 of them. So as we were reading them, I was like, Jess, like, let's record this because I want to show this to her at some point in her life. So I recorded it with the same camera that I showed you earlier, the DJI Pocket 2. And then later I was thinking to myself, like, I want to have some talking or some like information on this album that would resonate with her deeper than just my music, my instrumentals. So then I was like, oh, an intro can be my backing music over us talking, like whatever the main talking was. And then the outro maybe is like a longer version of that with like clips of everyone else's well wishes. So I'm working on that now. And then I was like, and I think this is probably what goes on an artist's mind when they put a date out for an album, or not even a date, if they just have a plan for a certain release and then things come up, and I'm like, things come up creatively, not so much of life, but like things that will make the album better. So now I'm like, wouldn't it be better if instead of doing that, if I had, say, my parents, Jess's parents, and each of our siblings, which there are three of, I have different, like every 4 tracks or every 3 tracks is like the name of the track is just that person, like Auntie Ash or Nana for my wife's mom or Grandma for my mom, and like have that track be them reading theirs on this microphone as opposed to me reading other people's on this microphone, which is I was far from it, so it's not gonna be good quality. So that's gonna take time to like get them over to the house and have them do that. So I'm at this point, I'm like 429. No. I don't have that many people like waiting for this release right now. The album is for me and my daughter. You know, I know a couple people probably
You
are.
got time.
I got time. I got time. So that's the first one. And then the second one is I had her down here like one like a couple of days ago. And I was just like, let me record her in 4K. Let's do that on this camera right here, Nikon camera. So I did that. And then I was playing some music on my Roland Phantom keyboard. I was playing one of the songs that I forgot that I made. And it is a Usher and P. Diddy song from when I was in 6th grade called I Need a Girl. And it was basically me hearing one of the sounds on this keyboard that sounds just like what they used in that song. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds like it. I need to learn the chord progression immediately, which I did. So I was like starting to play that. And then I made my own beat from that song. And it sounds so incredible. And I just started like had her in my hands. I was listening to it. I was vibing with her. And then I started like freestyling, even though I wasn't saying anything of substance, but I was like recording myself doing it. And I'm like, okay, I think what I need to do is, in addition to what I just mentioned, I'm like giving my whole album away, but that's okay. I need to like have one track on there that is this song. The name of the song is, I think I said it earlier, is I Need a Girl, but like have that song and actually write lyrics dedicated to my daughter and actually sing or rap them or whatever. So like take some time to actually do that. I think would just be so amazing. So now we're talking about like an album that was exciting or good to one that like I'm very excited about, and it's gonna take a little bit more time, but I'm very much looking forward to like getting that kind of going.
That's cool. I mean, that's an awesome gift for one. Just
Oh
this
yeah,
whole concept is going to be, that's not going to go out of style in your
yeah,
or your daughter's life. That'll
yeah,
always be something pretty
totally.
cool. The moment in time, when you
Yes,
first had your daughter and your creative expression around that. That's super cool. But it's
yeah.
also
Thank you.
cool how you've got like you had the idea, and as it was coming together, you started to see like how to add to it, and that happens I think a lot actually, where a project starts out one way, and then as you get into it, you're like, oh, I see what we could do with this,
Mm,
and maybe you might
yep.
miss the deadline of 429, but it's worth it sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes, deadlines are great because they do get you to work and to,
yeah,
kind of hunker down.
yeah,
But if the work calls for it, sometimes you have to just push the deadline a little bit.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. If it's gonna mean that you can do something
Yeah,
better,
and
like
to
I'm
get
thinking of.
those family members on the mic, like you said, like
Mhm.
again, I mean, just so many. There's a lot of layers to this that'll
Oh
make it
yeah.
special for you guys.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's something I'm probably the most excited about from anything that I've worked on. Like in terms of like I told someone, I said all that matters to me is that I love it and I'm excited about it, and that she will like it and love it and grow to really appreciate it. And then I said I don't really care, and this is a lie essentially. I said I really don't care what other people think of it. I do care what other people think, of course. That's I care less, but I do want people to also listen to it, be like, oh, this is really thoughtful and this is really nice. But then I was like, that being said, I was like, it's going to be one of the best instrumental albums of all time. I said that, and I feel that way. I feel very confident in like in what's going on there. And so we'll see how it goes.
Mm.
But it's at the bare minimum, it's going to be something that's like you said, a time capsule that we will have, and she can listen to on Spotify in middle school or elementary school. That's exciting.
Whatever the kids are listening to in the
Exactly. It may not be
13
Spotify, maybe
years from
something
now.
else. Exactly.
Are you documenting this process on your channel at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I have recorded a lot of content around her birth, but not as much. I mean, aside from the thing I mentioned yesterday, not as much of the actual making of the album, but I do feel there's an opportunity to, especially at this point, like when I have the family over recording, that's, I think, like pretty much record that entire thing and use that for something, maybe like a music video or something, right? Like for one of the singles or something like that. So yeah, it's coming along.
Hmm. Yeah, because you're going to be doing a lot of interesting things. You're going to be producing people that probably have never spoken on a microphone and,
Oh yeah.
might not understand like phrasing and rhythm. And be, you're going to be doing a lot of things, I think, that you might not really expect. When you get
Yeah.
somebody that isn't a musician, isn't used to performing and isn't used to recording, all kinds of funny things come out. Could be kind of cool to
Yeah.
capture some of that stuff.
Right.
You know?
Some of the moments. See, I didn't, that's great that you mentioned that. I didn't even think about the fact that, yeah, that it's them being in front of a microphone, having headphones on. They probably would be able to monitor themselves, or however we have it set up. But yeah, that could be a little bit maybe intimidating for
Is
them
that
and
what
stuff
my
like
voice
that.
sounds like?
Right.
You
Right.
hear that?
That'll be cool to, yeah, that'll be really cool actually. And actually my sister is coming to town. She's visiting. I just realized that. So at first I was thinking for certain people I may just get an iPhone, voice recording or something, but everyone will be able to be here actually in a time frame. She's coming like a couple weeks, so that'll be really cool.
It's kind of like the podcast too. It's a good excuse to do something with,
Yeah.
your loved ones, like something
Oh yeah.
creative. But
Totally.
just,
Totally.
just the experience of going through it and doing it is fun, and it's a bonding thing. You'll
Oh yeah.
see each other in a different light. They'll get an understanding of what it is you actually do in here.
Right. Right. Exactly. Like, what is he doing in there anyway? What is
He,
going on in that studio? Oh
he
well.
spends so much time in there.
Right. Right. That's probably my
Really
wife
get
right now. Like, what is he doing down there right now? I thought he would be what time is it? I thought he would be an hour. No, you know what, man? There's a couple things, man. I'm very glad that I reached out to you and followed through, because I knew that it wasn't, I think I reached out before our daughter was here. So I knew that, the timing was going to be at some point after, when I felt ready. And yeah, I'm like, I really enjoyed the connection. And hey man, whenever you're down to, well, first of all, I gotta have you on one of my episodes first off, and
Oh,
that's
cool.
probably better. Yeah, let's do it that way. I was gonna say whenever you're down to have me back on, but this time it's like I'll have you on so we can, we didn't, there's a lot that we can, and we talked about amazing things, but there's probably so much more that we can talk about. We didn't talk about music like you said. We did talk about music, but we didn't talk about like, what do you have back there? I see some knobs. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
But
yeah.
we can reserve that. But actually, no, I want to know what that bottom one is. Is that a Moog on the bottom? What do you have there?
This guy?
Yeah.
This is not. It's the Prophet 6.
Oh, I'm about to
Yeah.
curse. That okay.
Yeah.
So I know about that keyboard there, man.
Yeah. It's
So
beautiful. It's definitely the I would say if you told me I could only keep one, that'd be the one.
tell
You know.
me in a nutshell what makes it. Because I've done a little research. I know how expensive it is, but I don't know why it's
Well,
that expensive.
well, it's all analog. That's really it. It's polyphonic analog synth.
Okay.
It's, built off the Prophet 5, kind of
Okay.
like an upgrade at the next thing of the Prophet 5, I guess, from the
Okay.
80s, which I think it might have even been the late 70s.
Wow. Okay.
But kind of a modern take on it. They actually reissued the Prophet 5 recently, which is more
Mhm.
to that original, but it's got like all the benefits of the analog sound with the benefits of the digital stuff, the stability and there's effects on it, and they even got like a knob. It's called the slop knob, and it just detunes everything. It's kind of like the broken knob, so like, fun thing about analog synths is like they're not perfect. You
Okay.
know what I mean? Like they're not always in tune, and they play a little bit different every time you turn them on. So
Wow. Okay.
what the slop knob does, and they have a mode called vintage mode, which is, I believe, borrowed from what they did with the upgraded Prophet 5 reissue. So it just kind of screws with all the timing and all the tuning. So
Mm.
every time you hit the key, it's slightly different. And
Wow.
the envelope times are different, and the filter's
Yeah.
slightly off each time.
Wow.
The
Okay.
more you turn the knob, the more drastic it is. But
Mm,
it gives you that sense of just this thing being a little more alive.
mm. That's really
Like
cool.
when you
That's
play a
really
piano, when you play guitar, like every time you play it, it's a little bit different. You
hmm
strum it slightly different. You pluck the string a little bit different. You hit the key not as hard there, but harder here. It's
Yeah.
always different. But sometimes with synthesizers, digital synths, especially in the computer, everything's perfect. It's always in tune. Like
hmm
when you put that tuner effect on, it's not wavering a little bit. It's just right in tune.
Right. Right where it
Whereas the
needs to be.
guitar string is never. It's always kind of floating around the
Yeah.
actual pitch. But that's part of what makes it sound natural and real. So that's what I
Wow.
love about it. It's just got a lot of life to it. And there's so many sounds. There's, tons of presets, but it's so friendly because there's a knob for every single function.
I think that is it. As someone who is, and I appreciate the detailed, description as well as the excitement that you have talking about it, because I can tell how
Hmm.
much you enjoy it. As someone who's not into sound design really at all, I ask myself, why am I not into sound design that much? And I say, like, okay, I've never had a piece of hardware that has the knobs and faders on it that allow me to be able to play a key, turn something, and do things to make it sound different. I've had the Roland Phantom where you can go into menus, or Ableton where you could click on a mouse, and that stuff as I mentioned earlier, I kind of hate doing. So I'm like, is the reason that I'm not into sound design because I haven't ever had a piece of device that's as inviting, where it has all that stuff on it, like the Moog equipment. I know I look at those and I see like all the knobs and stuff, and certainly on the Prophet there. So yeah, you better believe I was looking, and I still am like looking at getting. I mean, do I need more gear? Yeah, I do. I do need more gear. Actually, yes. I answer my own question, but looking to get something like that, like where I can just be like, and that'll be cool for Instagram too. Before I make my departure from it, like having like a nice picture of like me holding like some knobs or something like that, like a huge smile on my face. Like if I had that keyboard, I probably would have to do that exact picture, like because that's like a essentially legendary piece of equipment there, right? It's
Yeah.
like something that people.
Yeah, it's
Do you
definitely
know
got
who
that.
Glasses is? Glasses Music. Have you heard of him or
Oh
seen him or
yeah.
heard
Yeah, that's the guy that does he
the art?
draws with MIDI. He
Yeah,
plays the keyboard and it creates MIDI art.
yeah. I mean, how, right? How
Yeah,
does
and
that
I
happen?
think I was following him before he started doing that, but
Uh-huh.
that just became like his thing, I guess, because
Yeah.
I don't even get how that's. I every time I watch the video, I'm kind of like, is he really doing that? And
Right,
he
right.
really
Like how is
is.
that even? Yo, yeah, so he's crazy talented. I had him on an episode, and he blew my mind when he said, I don't like talking about it. And then I actually do need to run 'cause my wife did text me. Yeah, well, I got a baby now, so you know
I
the deal. But he's like, I don't like talking about it because I have perfect pitch. And I was like, oh my God, that's incredible. And he was explaining to me the difference between perfect and relative pitch. So he explained it, and then I said, "Wait, so you're saying that if I play like two notes together or three notes together, like you'll be able to tell me all the notes that are there? Because that's insane if that's the case." He was like, "Yeah, that's exactly right." So I'm like, "Oh my God, let's do it!" So I start playing like two notes and three notes. He's like, "Boom, boom, boom. These three notes, these two notes." I'm like, "Yo, that's insane to me." His talent is crazy, and the reason I bring him up is because when I asked him his favorite keyboard, he said the Prophet Excel, which I think is the same as the six, just a bigger version that I believe they may have discontinued,
um I'm
or
not
maybe the Prophet X,
positive. I think it's a little different,
a
but
little
it's
different. Okay,
general idea. I think.
similar type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what got me thinking and researching it a little bit, and then I saw. I think it was that. I'm not sure if I'm mixing two different stories up, but there was a video that I saw him in. I'm pretty sure it was for the Prophet, that company. Yeah. What's it? what's the name of the company again? Sequential?
Sequential. It's also Dave Smith. You
Dave
might,
Smith
yeah.
Instruments. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I saw him and a few other really talented keyboardists like on there, on a video demonstrating this keyboard, and they were like killing it. And I'm like, yo, I need to get one of these. Like somehow I need to find a way to get one. So I like reached out to him I was like, yo, I said, do you have any contacts at Sequential? Because I would love to, just shoot my shot. Let's see. Like, hey, I'm a keyboardist. Like, like some diversity. You know what I'm saying? I'm a black guy. Let's go. Let's make it happen. And I don't even know if I reached out. I have to actually follow through. Like that's an email that I want to be specific, not too long, not too short, descriptive enough to let them know that like what I plan, all that kind of stuff. And not asking for it for free, but rather saying, hey, is there I prefer this question, especially for something expensive like this. Why would you send me a 3? Like, no, that's not. I mean, if you want to send it, I would love to, but I don't expect it. I want to see like an artist discount or something to say, all right, I can pay less money for it in exchange for, creating content, brand awareness, stuff like that. So it's a learning process, but I'm next time we talk, I want to hear like about the difference between musically. You said that's an all analog piece of hardware versus, I guess the Roland Phantom is all digital, I would imagine. I kind of think I know a little bit of the difference, but I know the difference between analog and digital as an engineer, but I want to know like what the difference is as a keyboard. And we can talk about that next time because that's probably a deeper question.
Well, that sounds like fun. And it's definitely a controversial topic in a lot of ways too, So
yeah.
Hey, I don't take sides. I'm on both sides of that argument. So I don't see why we can't have both. So
yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I'll let you go to, you don't want to upset the new mother or the new baby. So we'll let you get out of here. But right. We can definitely send people to Khordmaster.com, and that's chord starting with a K. Mm-hmm. And I believe that's your handle on pretty much everything, right?
That's it. Yep.
So we'll put all this in the show notes so people can find you and get caught up with what you're doing and check out the podcast, Khordmaster Keys. A lot of cool stuff going on there. It was great talking to you. I'm glad we got a chance to do this, and I'm psyched to continue it on yours.
Yes. Yeah, man. I'm so glad that I reached out and like you said earlier, just being able to have these talks and leave and having it resonate afterwards, like thinking about the stuff we talked about. And even when you release it, like re-listening to it, like I'm excited for that. Hopefully the stuff we shared, entertain, inspire some people out there. And I definitely will be hitting you up. We'll definitely schedule the Khordmaster Keys follow-up interview or conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. And thank you everyone for listening. Hey, if you enjoyed the Music Production Podcast, please consider giving it a review on your favorite podcast provider and share it with a friend, somebody that you think might enjoy the show and get something out of it. That would mean a lot to me. And if you want to check out more of my work, including sound packs, tutorials, etc., head over to brianfunk.com. Thanks so much for listening and have a great day.